how this everyday Aussie, this person who is a nurse, she works full-time as a nurse, bought 6 properties in 4 years. She has built a multi-million-dollar property portfolio. Her name is Kellie G. Adams, and she has absolutely crushed it. This session is all about her investor story, how she went from having absolutely no investment properties whatsoever, and then built the bricks of her portfolio. She is in her mid-40s, so just, oh no, it's too late for me to start. No, she's done it over 4 years. She's absolutely killed it. This is a really good session. We don't often have investor story sessions. We're doing it more often. This was really good. You know, we talk to experts in their fields, but we don't talk to the everyday people. And that's what we're going to do more, because she provided value. The acquisitions that she's done have just been timed well. She has bought in the right properties, in the right location. Her portfolio has evolved. She has evolved, and she has absolutely crushed it, and she shares everything. So the next hour and a half is going to be pretty incredible, so stick around. Hey everyone, my name is Joe Tucker, and together with Jeff Miles, we created Australia's largest property investment community with over 75,000 members, which is absolutely spectacular. And each week we interview top property experts about how they build their portfolios, how they scale their portfolios, and how they operate within the property sphere, so that we can all become better property investors together. Kellie has crushed it. You're going to enjoy it. So tune in, subscribe, and do all that fun stuff. Let's jump in.
What the way that you think about your philosophy on investing sort of now, and you probably thought about it throughout, but you probably are more focused on it now. What does that look like?
Well, how my brain works, and and it's maybe because I've been a nurse for so long, but with almost everything in my life, even with like my previous marriage, I think about it in a nursing. It's called the nursing process. So at a really simplistic form, it's assess, plan, implement, and evaluate. So when you see people on online and they're saying, where do I buy? They're jumping straight to the implement part of that little cycle. So this is relating to nursing, so just ignore that bit. But you can apply this to properties as well.
Relevant.
Yeah. So when people go, where do I buy a house? They're jumping straight to that implement. And I would suggest what's worked for us is going, okay, what do we need to do? What do we need? What do we want to get out of this? Where are we at? And like you said before, Joe, like looking at what you've got serviceability wise versus equity, or, and what your actual goal is in the end. What's the end goal with it all? And also your risk tolerance, how much you can handle, how much work you want to put in, because this is a lot of work. And I don't think people realize that people who have a lot of properties put a lot of time into it. So, if you want to, you can get a buyer's agent like you guys, and probably a lot less work for the individual. But for us, and because we enjoy it as well, it doesn't really feel like work, but we're probably putting in 20 to 30 hours each a week into this. Okay.
Still.
So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm not talking like renovation. I'm just talking.
We're an hour and a half of this, so yeah.
Totally. So I listen to you guys every drive to work, every drive home. I'm listening to podcasts. I'm reading everything I can get my hands on. I've got my little spreadsheet going on now that I look at after myself. So I feel like now I know what I'm talking about at last, but it's taken that amount of work. So
what are the
you can't just jump to implement.
What are those key things in that spreadsheet? Because I tend to agree. You're right. Like people always, I liken it to everybody wants to say, well, what suburb do I buy in? And that's the kind of stepping to the implement. It's like, well, the plan is the critical component. So what's in your spreadsheet?
Everything connects, right? Like you can't exactly jump to that one, because if you haven't built the actual strategy up front, what's suitable for me is completely different to the type of asset that you should be going out there, Kellie. Same with Jeff, completely different asset. So I could give someone a property right now that is the best property to buy in Australia, It's not good for them. It's going to be too much cash flow negative for them. It's going to be too much growth. It's going to be too much whatever.
Too much growth.
Yeah. Sorry,
I'll have one of those things.
I feel like I cut you off there, Jeff.
No, I just want to go back to Kellie and sort of ask her that spreadsheet, that secret or that special spreadsheet. What do you track and what do you look at in your metrics? Or?
No, it's not a secret, and it is not sophisticated at all. No one asked me for it. I will not share it. It's embarrassing, but but it works for me, and it sort of just reinforces the other stuff that I read and learn about. So all I do, it's from John Lindemann. I think you guys did a podcast with John, and he described, so I've actually taken that from your podcast and used it. I totally did. I totally did.
Good.
So I get on realestate.com and I look at the little girl with the binoculars, and I'm tracking, like, I don't know how many, maybe 50 suburbs.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Oh great. Okay. And then what, every single month you see it shifting and changing. And is it surprising? Like, are you seeing shifts and change in the data where you're like, oh, didn't see that coming?
So I've only just started doing it since October last year. So I'm only just starting to see the trends, but it's very reassuring to see demand supply ratios for like Hudale so low. And I'm just like, we are not selling that house yet, So
yeah.
I've got it very firmly in my mind. If a house has to go, which one's going first? Yeah.
You don't need to be a developer right now, right? If you can buy a property that has renovation potential, subdivision potential, a granny flat potential, don't feel the need that you need to, because what will happen is it'll slow you down, right? You're only just getting into the property investment world. You buy a property and you're like, great, I'm going to subdivide, I'm going to knock this house down. That's going to take you 2 years, which is probably not even going to yield you as good as if you start actually investing your capital, like in buying acquisitions that, like what you've done, right? You've gotten 6 properties in the past, 3-4 years, almost 6 properties in 4 years. And you've got this value stored away as frozen equity, right? You can run this development whenever it makes sense. But if you can go boom, acquisition, boom, acquisition, boom, acquisition. And then when you tap out of borrowing capacity, when the blank says no more borrowing, you can then turn around in your portfolio and then do the renovation, then do the subdivision, then do the development. Because if you've got a deal that stacks up from a development perspective, the money will come. You'll be able to find an investor that is willing to get 20% per annum. And you're like, cool, do all the calculations. Yeah, I'm willing to pay someone 20% per annum if they give me 300 grand, 500 grand, or whatever it is. And the deal still works. Boom, run it. The money will come.
Yep.
That's awesome. When you were looking at these deals, is there like an LVR, like a loan to value ratio that you were were you going hard with a 90%? Were you pushing for an 80%? Like, how did you think about that? And then also the cash flow perspective. Are you like, cool, we only buy 5% yields. We only buy 4% yields. Like, can you paint the picture for those two?
Sure. So when we started, and this is another thing that we've learned as we've gone along. So we've just signed up with our 3rd broker in 3 years or so. So we started off with a guy that was great, but probably more focused on first home buyers and owner occupiers and stuff. And he cross-collateralized everything. And, we were learning more, and we went, you know what, we really do want to uncross this. And he sort of hummed and hawed, and I'm like, no, you're not the right person for us. Found someone else. He's like, yeah, no worries. We'll uncross everything, refinanced everything, which was great. And we started to talk to him about what's next. We were stuck. And he's like, okay, well, you need more rent in, or you need to increase your income or something. So that we really had to, we were doing that assessment and planning pretty hard at that point because we were stuck. Yeah. But yeah, we've never really done a particular LVR or anything. That those first couple, we just borrowed as much as the bank could give us, pretty much. Yeah.
And then were you looking at like 5% yields, 4% yields, 4.5%, 6% yields? Like, how did you think about that? And how
I
has that
didn't.
changed over time as well?
So earlier on, because interest rates were quite low when we first started, we didn't probably think of it in yield, but I prefer to work out a net yield because it's just more accurate. So as long as we were covering our costs and we weren't putting in money from our wage every week, then we were
Okay.
happy with that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how has that changed now, right? Like you're talking about 2020 when 2020, 21, 22 when interest rates are at 0.25. What does that look like now when you're going to have there's positive cash flow doesn't exist or does it? Like how do you think about positive cash flow and the high interest rate environment?
It's much, much, much harder now. That's still what we're striving to do though, for sure. And the last two houses we've bought it at 80% LVR,
With equity or cash?
equity.
Okay.
Last deal was Rockhampton. We bought Rockhampton. So we set up the trust because we were stuck and,
Yeah.
we
Okay.
learned about trust. Oh, let's give that a go. So we set up the trust. Oh, actually, before that, can we circle back a little bit?
Yeah. Please.
Because after that Perth one, we were really stuck, and we went around in circles for about 6 months, going, okay, what do we do next? We're mostly because we're bored. We're like, okay, what can we do? And we went back to this Deception Bay property and went, there's got to be something we can do here. So
Yeah.
we used about $80,000 and we did a big reno on that one. So we
Okay.
spent about 80,000, and it's really hard because there's not many comparables with that house, but we thought we'd probably got 120 uplift, so probably made 40,000 valuation.
Got your
But the
money
big
back.
thing we did was got our rent from $450 a week to $800 a week.
What? How did you do that? Or was there a little
80
kind of
grand's a lot of
dual
grand.
dual occupancy kind of thing?
Yeah, so
Or
we were able to do a dual tenancy in there.
yeah, dual
So
tenancy.
yeah.
Which is
Very
why it was
creative.
so costly because you got to do the fireproofing, you got to do the
Did you
the
do all
legal
of that
part.
stuff?
Well, maybe not
So
us.
yeah, no, it's all legit. Property manager looks after it. Tenants are very happy. It's all habitable. Don't worry. But yeah, so that's what we did, and
Wow, that's
yeah,
So
that's really.
creative.
Yeah, I like
yeah.
that because to build a granny flat, that would have cost you. I mean, maybe you might not even be able to granny flat that side anyway, but that would have
Mm,
cost you, let's say, yeah, wow, $800 per week. So that's like an extra 350, 360 per week, roughly.
yeah,
Or maybe
yeah.
maybe 450. No, 350. So yeah, because to build a granny
350.
flat
Yeah,
would have been anywhere between 160 to 200K roughly, depending on
yeah,
the finish
yeah,
and the size of it. But
yeah.
instead of that, you spent half of that, and you managed to roughly you got almost the same sort of return. And
Yep.
yeah, I mean that's very
Yeah.
creative. Like, good on you.
And yeah, that was fun. It was very stressful as well. We did a lot of the work ourselves. We were over there painting and like it's old Queenslander
Wow.
gapping all the holes. Oh man, I still got like nerve injury from it. And but we learned a lot about working with trades. We learned a lot about valuing tenancies and properties and what's worth putting money into, I guess, and where the value is. Part of the reason it went up as well is that we moved the kitchen and created another bedroom in there as well. So we have increased the number of bedrooms in that house as well. Yeah.
Great
Wow.
idea. So
Hmm.
what are some of the what are some of the things that we shouldn't be well, were there things that you spent money on in hindsight you're like, "Oh, I shouldn't have done that," or what are some of the gotchas that you see people falling for in terms of renovations, and over capitalizing on?
Yeah, that's a really hard question. There's nothing I really regret spending money on. Like we put air
Right.
conditioning in, like it wasn't air conditioned, and that sort
Queensland,
of
so you've got
thing.
it.
Yeah, there was things that are invisible, like we had to upgrade the switchboard and waterproof the bathroom because wasn't waterproofed, and things that tenants don't see. They don't appreciate that, but it costs you money. But that's just the cost of doing business. Like, you just got to do it. Yeah. And ultimately we've got a better asset that's going to last a lot longer, and tenants are happy, and that's good.
So that's the secret unlock, right? We have bars of cash and equity and borrowing ability. Your borrowing ability, serviceability, that tank ran dry. And how do you increase it? Well, you start attacking it. You attack serviceability by increasing income. So you spent this limited resource that you had on this side of $80,000, and you've still got more there, and then that boosted up your serviceability. It's that easy.
It's that easy.
Ridiculous. I mean, not easy. Yeah. It's that simple,
no,
maybe.
It's that simple. It's not easy, but it is simple. Yeah, it's something like that. Yeah, that's what you keep saying, isn't it? Yeah.
Simple but not easy.
Simple, but not easy. I really appreciate you going after it. You've just got an idea. You've heard something. You've researched it. You've got comfortable with it, and then you've taken action upon it. So well done. Hats off to you for doing that.
I want to ask this one, because we did speak about it and allude to it earlier. How do you get past the mindset of being scared to get an investment property when having young family with every day today things going up or coming up? Like, it always feels like there's the hot water system in the current house, or there's there's a leaking roof, or
there's like trying to pay for a holiday and
trying to plan a birthday party, for goodness sakes. Like, you spoke about it earlier and you sort of said, well, you thought, well, what's the worst case scenario? But maybe you can sort of touch on it.
I think from a personal point of view, what has helped me is knowing my ins and outs of my personal budget, like inside out, and automating it is the other thing I've done. So I put money into my everyday account. I know I can spend that on whatever I want. I have a bills account where I work out like a yearly amount for my rego and big stuff that comes up, the hot water system blows up, whatever. Work out per pay, put that in a bank account, don't touch it. And that's my emergency money. So I know that if my car breaks down, it's going to cost me $2,000. I've got money sitting there for just that thing. And even though I don't really want to spend it, at least I'm not going, oh shit, I've got to get a credit card. Like, I've got to borrow money or whatever. That's where the stress comes. And then so once you've got that buffer personally for your stuff and you do your numbers with your investment properties, then it doesn't feel like a risk anymore. It doesn't feel scary because you're confident that no matter what happens in your personal life, you got it covered. And if you're confident enough with your investment numbers, ins and outs, then it's not concerning either. Yeah.
Nice. I tend to agree. It's really about, well, what makes the person, and it sounds like for you feeling comfortable, it's about understanding what the sort of incomings and outgoings, whereas somebody else, they would need to have that emergency fund. And everybody feels, I remember when my first or second property, you sort of buy them and you're like, oh crap, this is really concerning. Like, I have to pay the bills, I have to organize this, have to manage it. But by the time you sort of get to the third or fourth, you start to realize that, hey, like, if there's something won't go according to plan, and then the sun will still come up the next day. So it's not easy getting to that mindset. I don't know there's an absolute answer to it, but I think it's just putting one leg in each pant leg as we go in each day, as most people do it, I suppose. So what I wanted to do
is just spending less than you earn. People who are living paycheck to paycheck, investing in property is probably not for them yet. So learn the basics first, that you must do that, because if you are living paycheck to paycheck, then it's not going to work.